Hey, I'm Kota.
And I'm Sara. Welcome to our channel where you can follow along with the process of building our camper van.
Just so you know, this is not a how-to and we're total amateurs, but we're diving in head first.
In this episode, we get started running wiring for our electrical system. So I think I'm gonna get started just going around and labeling where we want like our light switches, our outlets, various cables to go to different accessories that we're putting in the van. So I'm gonna get started.
We got our handy label maker, thanks to Grandma. Once again, we're gonna label each end of the wires from the battery bank to wherever they let out, whether that's a switch or a light or a water pump, whatever it is. We want to know where it starts and where it ends so that we make sure we feed everything to the right area. Puck light 1, puck light 2,
Puck light 3.
puck light 3.
That's all I have written yet. I don't have the rest written.
We're pucking it up in here. All right, so we just got everything labeled where we think we're gonna have all of our electronics, essentially where the wires are gonna end.
Yeah.
So we're gonna give you a little bit of a tour because this will kind of give you an idea of our floor plan, which is pretty
Just a
exciting.
little.
Yeah.
Just a sneak peek. So right when you come in, we have first a light switch, of course, just because it's easy access from the outside of the van, from the inside of the van. And then we haven't talked much about our floor plan yet, but down this whole side of the van is gonna be where our kitchen side is. So that's honestly where the most of our electric wiring will be running to. So we have two 120 volt outlets on this side of the van, kind of spaced out a little bit on each side of the countertop. We will have overhead cabinets right here. So we're actually gonna install puck lights on the bottom sides of the cabinets. It's one of my pet peeves not having light in the kitchen, so this will help. And then of course, our kitchen sink will kind of be back towards this section. So because we're having the kitchen sink back here, of course, we need to put the water pump somewhere in this section as well, as well as the water pump switch to turn it off and on.
And then here's our fridge down here.
Yep.
This is where the fridge is gonna be.
So nice. So our bed is going to be landing here as well as sort of like our couch slash lounging section. So we want to have an outlet, like super easy access here so we can charge our phones and our devices and everything at night while we're sleeping. So that is just a very small layout of the van, I guess layout of all of our electrical work, but it's exciting and we'll share more later.
Yep. One last thing is we have our puck lights ready to go. The important thing is that this is just where the wires are gonna end. So we're gonna, when we actually feed the wires, like I said earlier, label both ends so that we know when they all feed down this sort of central section, down into our battery bank, we'll know where they started and where they end, and they're all gonna end in generally the same spot. So all the wires are gonna come out essentially somewhere on the shore power, and then we're gonna build our battery box in this general area. It's gonna be sick.
This is literally the most satisfying thing ever. Just printing labels. And then all of our stuff is perfectly labeled and there will be no confusion later. Perfect. I was just messing around.
Alright, last one for the day. So we got a lot done today. Very solid. Very, very solid. Alright, so you might have noticed that, well, I'm sure we'll show at some point, the fact that we ran a bunch of wiring, about 200 feet. Well, after about 8 more hours of electrical research, we realized that the wire that we used was solid copper strands instead of braided copper or stranded copper. And basically that just means that this wire will, if it rattles, if there's too much vibration in the van, then it's gonna break. So a few days ago, I went in and I ripped out all of our wiring and I reordered the proper wire. And this time I got the right gauge. I got a few different gauges, but ultimately the important thing is that it's all marine grade stranded wire. So yeah, I feel like it's important to own our mistakes and the things that we do wrong, because it's a huge learning experience for Sarah and I. And I feel like those are just important little distinctions that you don't catch from every YouTube video that you watch, that there's just such particular things you have to buy if you're considering that this is a moving vehicle. It's considered outdoor, so you have to consider that with wiring, and there's a lot to consider overall. So I got some more wiring. I got some AC extension cables for our inverter, and then everything else is DC solar wire or stereo wire, whatever you want to call it. And I think it's going to work this time. We've got all of our furring strips up so we can route the wiring around all of the framework, and it's going to turn out really clean. I'm really glad that we didn't just go with it after we made the mistake. We decided to correct our mistake before it was too late. And so I'm just really thankful that we caught it before, we put walls over it and then had to rip all of it out when, 6 months into a road trip, it's not working anymore. That would suck. So I'm happy with the direction that we're going. I think that if we continue to be this vigilant throughout our whole build of just being really self-aware of the potential mistakes that we're making, then this will be a pretty smooth process from here on out. I would imagine that framing and wiring is one of the harder parts, at least from my experience, it seems like it. So once we get over this little hurdle, then I believe the fun stuff's going to begin. We're going to put our walls and our ceiling up. We'll have all of our wires ready to put in our fixtures, and we can start building our cabinetry, our bed, our closet, our garage. It's going to be awesome. Can't wait for you guys to see the final product. Because I can't wait to see it myself, actually, because I never have. All right, let's get to work. Making knots. Gotta keep track of every beginning, every end. Very important. This is called a three-way junction box. So you're gonna combine one wire with two. So I can have two outlets on each side of the van. Alright, that was really tricky, but I got the first cord in. Basically, we're just going to tie all of the greens, blacks, and whites together in here, and then clip them all together, and that's going to be our three-way once I get this third cable in here. Looks good, though. It got a little dark last night, so I wasn't able to continue filming, but I think I got all the wiring done, so I'm really stoked about that, honestly. This has been a huge learning curve. It's been very intimidating. But honestly, I never thought that I would understand this much about solar power or electricity in general, or just wiring and types of wiring and gauges and fuses. It's like it's a big mountain to climb if you're looking at it from the bottom, and it's pretty scary. But to be honest, I'm so thankful that it's starting to make sense, and a huge part of that is because of Sara. But yeah, if it wasn't for her like pushing us and doing the research, she did a lot of the research and understood it, I feel like, better than I have up until this point. But I'm finally starting to catch up, and it feels really good. It feels good to understand how this is all going to work. So yeah, I'm going to take some measurements. I'm going to get my ceiling measured out so that I can do my furring strips, but somehow build around our overhead cabinet, which is like, that's going to be a little bit of a task. I'm going to have to figure that out. It's going to be fun. Basically just that, and then I can clean up the wiring. I can get it all taped together, looking really good. Make sure that nothing's going to cause any issues once we put the walls and the ceiling up. And once that's up, this thing's going to look like a completely different van. I mean, it kind of looks like a nightmare right now. I'll show you. So you can see these are our puck lights going all the way down the ceiling, so that's all going to get covered up, and I'm basically going to bind all of these cables up here to these horizontal furring strips that I'm going to lay later on. This is the bulk of my wiring. This is where there's going to be a hole in the wall, and then all the wiring is going to feed out to our battery bank. So those are going to be some outlets for our bedroom, and we've got the wire run up to our max air fan. And then these big orange cables are our AC, so that's why there's a three-way over here, and then I have another one coming in the mail to connect the rest of them that are just taped together for now. But once those come in the mail, then we'll have two three-ways, and that will be one for each side of the van that will give us our AC outlets, which is like what you see in your house. And these are our light switches. They're looped off into separate lines so that we'll have a light switch for our kitchen, and then we'll have a light switch for all the puck lights on the ceiling. So that's gonna be pretty nice to have that option. And then we have our water pump, and then water pump switch somewhere above it. Not sure where that's going yet, but we'll figure it out. Then we have our fridge over here. So looks like a complete mess, but once these walls go up and we have the option to plug things in wherever we need to, it's going to be pretty rad.